Good evening, wherever you are joining us this wonderful time. Today we are here again back with another edition of TukoFreshy. And you know what we do? Every time we go from place to place, it's always about having some very nice conversations with the community members, with amazing people, always talking about different issues. Remember the last time we were in Buruburu, talking about access to education and the opportunities that come with education. We traveled all the way to Kariobangi again to talk about access to water and proper sanitation. In Kawangwara again, we were there talking about access to health facilities and services. Then we went to Kibra. In Kibra, we are discussing about food security. But today, this session is a very special one because we are not in a community, but we are in a space where we can have a conversation with a great friend of mine by the name Aboge. Karibu sana, bro.
Asante sana.
How have you been, Bana?
I've been alright. How have you been?
I've been okay. It has been nice talking over the phone via social media platforms, but finally got an opportunity of meeting and just to have a conversation.
Pleasure.
I knew you as a debater.
Yeah.
Transited from Kenya to the place where you are right now. Are you still debating?
I used to debate my first year, but right now I don't debate as much.
Why don't you debate anymore?
I mean, I got a little busy academically, but whenever called upon, I try to debate.
What do you mean you try to debate? Once you're a debater, you should not stop debating.
Well, I mean, I think I still carry the debating spirit, so I can still always debate whenever called upon. I mean, I just took a short hiatus from the debating student organizations that I was part of.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great. Anyway, maybe just tell us briefly who is Aboge?
So my full name is David Johnson Aboge. I am a student at Harvard University, going to my fourth year. I study applied mathematics there, and also my minor is in Near East Languages and Civilizations with a language citation in Arabic. I'm also a Kenyan, as you can tell. I was born and raised here all my life, and right now I'm on a summer recess, having a short family time in Nairobi and Kisumu, where I'm from, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. For
the sake of those people watching, what is a summer recess? Is it a vacation? Are you here on a, you know?
I mean, yeah, so we, whatever version we call long holiday here in Kenya, so that's our long holiday, whereby you have somewhere from late May to late August, at least in my university, to be away from school, to do other summer programs, for example, internships or volunteer opportunities or study abroad, or if you just want to rest also, you can rest if you want to do some traveling or a mixture of any of those. You can also do that during your summer recess or your summer break. Yeah.
From Kapsabet boys to Harvard University.
Yes.
How did this happen?
So, first of all, at Kapsabet Boys in Nandi, I was so fortunate to be the third best in the country in my national examinations in 2019. And with that, I earned myself an invitation to join the University of Nairobi for medicine and surgery. But then after reflecting, I was like, you know, like most African societies, if you do well, they expect you to either fit into three careers. Either you be a lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor. So I was like, am I really going to be one of those who is also like just kind of constrained to fit into this, or do I want to try something more, something a little bit foreign that I'm not used to? So that's when I decided during COVID, after my Equity Bank internship was cut off, less than 3 weeks into the job, to apply to universities abroad. So I did my research. I joined a college access program called KENSAP, which is Kenya Scholar Access Program, and they guided me in the application. But of course, like, you had to do the work yourself. They were just giving you the information. And I was fortunate to apply to one university, and that was Harvard University, whereby I got admission on the eve of 17th December 2020. And yeah, so I've been studying at Harvard from August 2021 to date.
Tell me the experience, the shock.
The shock.
To start with, yeah. You left Kenya, finding yourself in the US, now there to study, coming from Kapsabet in Nandi County.
Yeah, the shocks every day that I still face today. But I remember even right when I landed into the United States, my first point of entry was Washington Dulles International Airport in DC. I didn't know that other countries were seriously driving on the right side of the road. So when I went to the front of the car, I found myself on the driver's seat.
You just felt like you were going to face an accident at any time, then you realize, oh, I'm not
realized, yeah.
Okay.
Also, like the food was wildly different. I mean, as you know, most Kenyans like to eat the vegetables cooked, but there are lots of salads the other side, and I wasn't really used to eating salad like raw vegetables. Also, like language. Of course, here in Kenya, English is one of the languages, but on the streets, I don't think you're going to be finding people using English like every other time. And we speak Kenyan English, which is a Commonwealth variant. So when I went there and found like American English, it was a little different. And it took me like some while to get used to it, because some things were pronounced differently. Also, like I was pronouncing most of my Kenyan words like a little differently in ways that they'd not heard before.
Give an example.
For example, in Kenyan English, we rarely pronounce the word, the letter R in words. For example, if it's a car, like the vehicle, we say a car. Or if you want to say like my heart, you say my hat, you know. So when I went there and I said like something like my hat, the Americans are like, what exactly do you mean? Like, you mean like a hat or a hat or something?
A house or what is
or
it?
A heart? So I had to like learn how to pronounce like the R, which we normally don't do as Kenyans. And even like tapping my medial T's, for example, calling something like Twitter to be Twitter. As Kenyans, we pronounce all our T's like Twitter, you know, but over there, like nobody really does that. So that was also like a big culture shock. And also like people were more like open over there, more liberal. I think Kenya is a little bit of a more conservative society, but I found like things were more open in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And yeah, some things are still a shock to date, including the education system there and just generally everything, but with time you get used to it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So starting education, then now getting to class, and now starting to look at, first of all, tell me, what are some of the opportunities available there for a student? Even before it was like life at Harvard, how it looks like, but what do you do when you're not in a class or when you're not in school, you as Aboge?
So when I'm not in class, I engage myself in extracurricular activities. I still write Swahili poetry today, as much as nobody really speaks Swahili over there.
So unazungumza Kiswahili?
Nazungumza Kiswahili.
Kiswahili safi?
Kiswahili fasaha.
Unazingatia ngeli vizuri?
Naam.
Haya, sasa tutaendelea na mazungumzo baadaye pengine katika lugha ya Kiswahili.
Haina shida.
Haya, sasa
lugha yangu. Also like I like riding my bicycle. Just like I was telling you before, I have an e-bike which I like riding around Cambridge and Boston. At the same time, I also have part-time jobs. So I'm a research assistant to a professor. I'm also like a student coordinator in the Harvard's admissions and financial aid office. Also, like sometimes I work in the Center for African Studies school. So like there's so many employment opportunities even for students in the universities and like in Kenya.
And are you paid to do that?
Of course.
You know why I'm asking that? Recently, we've had a very controversial conversation here in Kenya that exactly what is internship, what are these work placement or attachments. People have been saying, you know, I cannot come to your office, I cannot come to your organization and work without being paid. Are attachments, internships also are treated the same way they're treated here in Kenya? So when maybe someone like a teacher, you go for your work, teaching practice in a certain school, or as a lawyer, maybe an upcoming lawyer, you go to a certain law firm. Are these jobs you are paid for?
Yes. I think so far almost all the internships that I've done or applied to have all been paid internships. Unless like you're going to work abroad where they give you a stipend that will manage like your living and everything, but by default, like I think most American internships are paid because it's very hard to live in those expensive cities if you're not going to be having some wages or compensation to make you live comfortably. Which is unlike Kenyan companies where they don't call it volunteer opportunities, but they mostly treat you like a volunteer, although you offer lots of services to them for no pay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just also on the same note, we hear of all these things of maybe someone studying and also working at the same time. What are the kind of jobs which are available for people who are still in school?
Oh yeah. So for example, like in my university, we have lots of research opportunities. So I'm a research assistant to my former professor of government. Also, like we have other jobs on campus. For example, you can be a sales agent at the Harvard Student Academies, which is like a shop, which is student run by Harvard University students. Also, You can work in places like libraries and cafes and things like that. Also, you can also be a course assistant or a teaching fellow. You assist a professor to teach a certain subject for compensation. So I also help in the Swahili department of Harvard in my free time to just help students like improve their Swahili speaking and reading skills.
Okay.
So there's so many jobs around there for students who are still on campus.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now on the same note, because what took you to Harvard is actually education.
Exactly.
What makes you feel like, what is the experience that you've seen or you've felt that makes it different from studying here? Even I know, because you have I'm sure you have some friends who studied within high school who are studying here in Kenyan universities. Whenever you make those phone calls or chatting via WhatsApp, or what makes you see the difference? What is the difference that you see, you as a student on the other side and these people are students in Kenya?
I think I have less free time over there because we have so many assignments that we do. And like my friends say, even here in UN, when I call them, and they mostly wait till exam period for them to get busy. But for most of my classes, because I'm an applied mathematics major, if you don't do your assignments, you're not going to pass the class, even if you've been doing well in the examinations, because it's a very holistic grading system. They take right from your attendance and participation to your assignments and to your examinations. So
can you sign and leave? Can you sign and go your way?
They're going to know, because most of the classes are very small. So, for example, in my Arabic class this first semester, we were 6. There's no way you're gonna. And I was the only black student in the class. So if I
so you're missing everyone else that you're not there.
They know, like, David or Aboge isn't here. So also, like, some professors give you tests in the middle of the classes. Like, for example, like one of my classes last semester, the professor used to give us like a quiz every other time in class. And if you're not in class, of course, you're not going to go do the quiz, and she's going to know that you're not in class. So some professors make you sign QR codes. But also, like, some professors don't record their lectures, such that if you miss a lecture, then you've missed all the information that is going to be very helpful for you. So attendance is like seriously taken, unlike also in most Kenyan universities where you can ask your friend, like, hey, nisainie hiyo na tutaongea baadaye, So yeah.
In terms of exposure, how does it look like? Do you have like opportunities to travel around the country, to go do some programs outside? Yeah. Which are actually part of the university program?
Yeah, so my favorite thing is traveling, using the funding available from the university. So, for example, like my first traveling opportunity from Harvard was my study abroad program when I finished my first year, when I went to study.
You're already studying abroad, so again, Harvard gives you opportunity
to
study abroad.
Which is, I tried explaining that to my mom. She was like, you're already studying abroad. Like, what do you mean you're going to study abroad again? So I went to...
But then do you also call Kenya abroad on the other side? Let's say if someone is coming to study in Kenya, you also say Kenya is abroad.
Yeah, because there's also a study abroad program here in Kenya. So
I'm asking this because this is a joke that we always make. So if someone leaves Kenya to go study in Rwanda, do we say this person is going to study abroad?
No. Most of the time, if it's our neighbors in the East African community, then we...
Why don't we call that abroad?
I think there's this notion that because these are neighboring countries and we are almost at the same economic level, then we are not really going abroad. But if you go somewhere like, even in the same continent, if you go somewhere like Morocco or Egypt, then they'll consider that as abroad.
But I have a friend studying in Ghana, and every time he says he studies abroad, people just make laugh at him.
Yeah. So
isn't Ghana abroad?
Ghana is abroad, at least according to me, but the economic conditions there are similar to Kenya. And even like the racial demographic is similar. So people, when you go to other black countries, I think it's just like something that we've imbued upon ourselves, like an inferiority complex that other sub-Saharan African countries cannot really be defined as abroad. Yeah.
Okay. That's intense. So you're talking about the opportunities to do something outside the campus,
Yeah. So for example, like I went to study in Jordan with Harvard funding, and they paid for basically everything from my airfare to my accommodation to my food and everything. Also, I've been able to travel to different places in different programs, either student-led or university-led. So, for example, this past winter break, I went for a study excursion in Tunisia, which lasted 3 weeks. So we were in Tunis and its environs. Also, like just before that, I'd gone to like the summer last year. I went to work in South Africa, in Cape Town, and also I worked in Accra, Ghana, all using Harvard's funding. And of course, all these opportunities have travel components, which I like.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've gone to several countries using Harvard's Diamond. I think now I'm counting more than 25 countries.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think, yes, in as much as yes, economically we might really be lower than the Americans, the economy. I'm also liking slowly is also beginning to pick up also back here at home. I've seen campuses, universities trying to push their people outside. Like I know Kenyatta University, for example, they have an exchange program with some university in Turkey. And I know even some of my friends right now are currently in Turkey studying, and they'll be coming back very soon. So do you feel like this is a very important component of education? Before you graduate, you need to travel and see the world beyond your university and beyond your home?
Yeah, I think it's very important to get exposure because it makes you think in a different way regarding issues, either globally or domestically. I think like being in the United States and also like traveling to these other countries and spending like substantial amounts of time therein has made me like view the Kenyan society and the Kenyan economy in a different lens, and now I understand things a little bit better. For example, like I understand the stock markets here in Kenya better because I get to understand like the ones in the US. Also, just like seeing how different societies live make me be able to interpret certain gestures or certain actions by other societies and be able to understand them without prejudice. So I think exposure is important, especially in tertiary education. I think having a travel component to a place that is wildly different from what you're used to makes you think a little bit differently and kind of expands your horizons as to what you can draw from when making your inferences.
One of the reasons why people go to school is to be able to solve problems, to offer solutions to problems. When you're outside the country, you're traveling around, you are in Jordan, you're in South Africa, you are in the US, of course you keep remembering Kenya, because this is the land that you are coming from. And by there, for me, one thing that I really try to promote in our shows, patriotism. I'm for the idea that we can hate the government, we can hate the government officials, but we cannot afford to hate our country and the greatness that it has, right? And the great potential. Whenever you're traveling around and you're looking at the world, are there things sometimes you feel like, I wish this was at home, and because it is not at home, this one we can do it?
One, I like the transparency that I see, for example, in the US with their public funds. Here in Kenya, like even to date, we still don't know what amounts of money certain government officials spend whenever they travel and everything, because there's so much haze around those things. I think transparency is very important. But if we had it, we would be having a more straightforward economy and having a lower wage bill. Also, I think just traffic. For example, in Nairobi, if people were just able to follow traffic rules, we'll not be having the traffic that we have here. And also, like, the government should also, like, I think investments in infrastructure that make life simpler for the citizens. For example, just having like functioning traffic lights in all places of these metropolis, or just completing these projects on time and not leaving them hanging there for years is something that I've seen in other countries, even countries of a lower economic caliber than Kenya. But when things are managed well, it really makes things easier for the citizens. So I think management, and also I think just kindness. I think when I went to Tanzania, our neighbors, I noticed like the courtesy that they offer guests is just out of this world compared to
our own land.
Even from simple things like going to the shop and a Tanzanian will say naomba kitu hiki, like I'm asking for this. Kenyans will be like nataka, I want this, So such things like I think can make our society better. And there's so much to learn out there. But also I'm not saying that Kenya doesn't have like qualities that people can learn. I think there's a lot that we can also offer to the world, because there's just so much good here too.
So many Kenyans go study abroad, and it seems like after studying, no one wants to come back to the country. What is causing this, and are you planning to do the same?
Well, let me approach this differently. So I think that
because we've seen this, it happens a lot. People go to whether it is Harvard or Oxford, and after some time you see on Facebook they've met some other guy there. Is about marriage, and people are not coming back to the country, and you're wondering, and they keep on saying, we'll come back to that country maybe one day when you fix it. So I keep on wondering, who do you want to fix it? Who are you giving this duty, and the country has produced you to go outside there, see the world, and come back?
Well, I think it depends on the government. If the government is not doing something that will make kind of a soft landing for those who've studied abroad, then there's almost zero incentive to come back.
For example, the government. We are told in a democracy, it is a government of the people, for the people, by the people. I really fail to understand which part of government we are in. Because when we are told we are the government, and I wonder, and we keep
I think we have three arms: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. I'm personally not part of any of them, so I don't know if I'm...
No, you are part of almost all. To be specific, legislation wing, because you've trusted one person from your constituency
to
represent you at the National Assembly.
Yeah.
You've trusted another person from your county to represent you at the Senate. You've trusted another lady to represent you also at the National Assembly as the woman representative. So through these people, you're part of the government.
Well, I don't see them working in the interest of the people. So that's why, like, when students abroad see that the government is not working in the interest of the Kenyan citizens, then they are more likely to use the skills that they've gained to give back, or rather to work in a society which can see the value of whatever they have to offer. For example, if you're already used to a certain life of, let's say you go to college in New York, and you're used to like life in New York, where there's a subway functioning there, even with all the craziness that goes on therein, and also like if you are taxed by both the state and the federal government, you actually know where the taxes are going. But in Kenya, you don't really know where the taxes are going because we have like very shady accountability. Such things like draw such students away. Also, the opportunities that are here, even when we come back, and most of the time they're not comparable to whatever is out there, because, for example, like the salaries are adjusted to the country. So even if it's a job that you'd normally earn, let's say $7,000 per month in the US, it's going to be adjusted to what Kenyans in that range would typically earn in Nairobi when you come back. And looking at the kind of taxes that we're paying right now, with the Finance Bill 2024 coming, I don't think anyone wants their money to be taxed that heavily. And also, like, most Kenyans also prefer to assist the country through remittances, because Kenyans send like $3 to $4 billion every year back to Kenya here, to their families, or to invest back and everything. So some people see that as their way of contributing to the economy, because if they were here, they would not be able to...
They would not be able to earn and contribute that amount of money to the country.
So, for me, I don't really fault the students, the young Kenyans who are studying abroad and who decide to, stay there, provided they're patriotic to their country, and they still send remittances, and at least they still imbue a sense of Kenyan identity even outside there. Because, if they stay outside there, we also get the diaspora population of Kenya also growing, which I've seen in other countries. Like, there's a big Nigerian diaspora population in the United States.
It had to be Nigeria first.
There's a big Egyptian population. There's a big Moroccan population. There's a big South African population. So I think also like having a big Kenyan population up there is also just as important as the other nations which have like a big diaspora presence.
Okay, that's interesting. So people study abroad. People don't want to come back to the country. It is not their fault.
I don't think it's their fault. I think human beings by nature want to take care of themselves first. And if you see like one opportunity is better than the other for you in the long term, I would advise you to go for it. If you see that, having this job in Abu Dhabi or even in Amman, Jordan, or even in Kazakhstan is better than having a job in somewhere in Kisumu or Eldoret. And that's the way that you can support your family and to improve both that country's economy and your country's economy through remittances, then so be it.
I knew you as a debater, even before rising to be position 3 in KCSE national, which was such a great achievement.
Thank you.
But you've also had some great interest of leadership in the country, right?
Yeah.
So, having traveled the world, you've been to about 25 countries. You are in third year in the university.
Yeah, I mean,
now we are trying to compare the opportunity that you get as a student abroad and as a student here in the country. There's this wonderful country called Qatar.
Qatar, yeah.
And one thing that facts about Qatar keeps on amazing me all the time. So number one, Qatar is actually Kenya is almost 44 times larger than Qatar, right?
Yeah.
Their population, the population of their own country, I want to believe it is even fewer. Or actually, the population of the whole country is less than the population of our primary school kids here in Kenya, because Qatar's population is about 2.6 million people.
That's a small population.
Their GDP is 3 times ours, right? Okay, we talk about oil and all that. Do you think it is about management of what they have, or is about what they have? Because where do you think African countries are getting it wrong and other people are getting it right? Because I've seen countries sometimes that are doing way much better than most African nations, but in terms of minerals and resource availability, population, workforce, we're way better than these people. What's the problem?
Just like I said, I think, for example, with Qatar, with Qatar it's mostly about the management. Well, they have the resources, they have oil and gas, but I feel like even if you had that amount of oil and gas here in Kenya, of which I think we might have, maybe we've just not discovered it yet, then management will really matter as to whether those resources are going to benefit the country or not. So, for example, with Qatar, the way they handle immigrants who come to work there, the immigration system is very, very good. I think they manage the influx of legal versus illegal immigrants compared to our country, where we have sometimes we have porous borders in some certain sections. Also, I think that basically corruption has been handled there, because for example,
corruption is a big problem here in Kenya.
So of course, I don't know if Qatar follows Sharia law, but I want to assume that they have some elements of Islamic law there. And one thing I like about Islamic law is how they treat managing public funds and trusts. You won't just steal billions of dollars, like we see billions of dollars getting lost in the Kenyan economy to corrupt deals, and the Qataris are not just going to watch by if something like that happens. You're going to lose something value that's going to teach those people in the future who plan to do a similar thing not to misuse or steal public funds. Also, I think just having lots of flexibility with the economy and not trying to emulate other countries' economies in ways that are going to hurt the normal citizens is also very important. Because, for example, the kinds of taxes that we're paying as Kenyans, I kind of crazy. I usually explain to some of my friends all the different types of taxes that we have on the same income, and they're like, why is all this happening? And they're not really seeing the impact on the ground. So I think Qatar, just like any other small country in the Gulf, like Kuwait or no, Oman is not small, but Kuwait and other Gulf countries, I think they manage their resources well. Because as Kenya, we have lots of resources, right from the wildlife to gold in Migori, where I'm from, to oil and gas in the northern part of Kenya, to the tea that we have in the Rift Valley and Central.
To human resource.
We have a population of nearly 50 million. And also the nature that we have here, that attracts tourists. If you go to Watamu and you see the kinds of beaches there are places that, if you go to Maldives, you just find, if I go to Lamu or Watamu, I might think I'm in the Maldives. And that's why we have so many tourists here. But where does all that money go to once it lands in the government's hands?
So to you, if I get you clearly, it is not about what we have, it's how do we manage.
It's about management.
What we have.
Yeah,
because some of the nations are doing better than Kenya, I've listened to stories of countries like Singapore, for example, that at the time of our independence,
we're at the same level.
Yes, Singapore and Malaysia were still struggling to be one country, South Korea, Malaysia, all these nations. Years later, the economies, 40 times what we're having here right now in the country. Population-wise, we're doing way better than these people. Our education system is not that bad.
Yeah.
Kenyans are very industrious people. People are really willing to do very quite initiative. If you just look at things happening in social media, you can already tell Kenyans are really, really willing to go forward.
Yeah.
every time you are outside there, do you think Kenyans are people really valued outside there? Whenever you go to a place, maybe you meet a Kenyan, are Kenyan people valued?
I think
where the place where they're working.
I think Kenyans are valued in whichever place they go to. One, we've built our name as a country that is full of people who are very industrious. Our athletes are known for their marathons. So if you say you're from Kenya, or if they see this thing here, which I believe all Kenyans in the diaspora kind of have, it just shows like lots of patriotism for our country. And also, like, we produced world leaders. President Obama, the former president of the United States, is of Kenyan heritage from our tribe.
UK Prime Minister.
The UK Prime Minister
has roots here.
Rishi. And
we have currently a senator in Australia also.
Yeah, we also have our senator in Australia, and also in neighboring countries. Like, we have so many Kenyans there doing amazing things, and even in the corporate world, so many Kenyans are doing amazing things out there. Plus, I think, like, as much as Kenyans don't really use their nation as their brand to get themselves opportunities, we kind of stand out for that, for just like working hard and getting to the highest echelons of society. And for example, like, even if you look at Swahili restaurant in the United States, it's one of the best restaurants that I've ever been to. And many of my friends who have taken there, they were like, "Wow, this is some of the best food that we've tasted." And is this what you guys eat at home? Like,
just to cut you short on that.
Yeah.
Do you think Swahili restaurants outside are they associated with Kenya or Tanzania?
Both.
Oh, both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. So Swahili is a language that we always contest. They're like, oh, is it a Tanzanian or Kenya or Congolese language? But I think it belongs to all of us. We only have different dialects. Yeah, so I think Kenyans are really valued out there. But of course, you're going to find in certain places where Kenyans are not valued. It's normal for any nation. But so far, in my experience, whenever I tell somebody that I'm Kenyan, in whichever place that I've gone to, there's always this kind of curiosity, like, wow, what is Kenya like? We've only heard about, athletes. For example, like the athletes of the wildebeest migration, or we had that Nairobi is like the New York of East Africa, and things like that. So yeah, I think we've built a name out there. And also the recent state visit of our president to the United States also kind of elevated the country's image, just because, like,
was it a big story there?
Yeah, I mean, not every other day do you find an African president being invited for a state visit.
For a state visit.
Over there.
Did it matter to you Kenyans in the US? Was it like a moment? When President Barack Obama came to Nairobi, Kenya, let me tell you, it was a big thing. In fact, that day we were instructed, all offices were supposed to close by midday. Yeah, because the president was coming to the country, that is the United States of American president. Yeah, the United States of America president. So when our president visits the US, I know we cannot be as big as when they visit this other side, but was it big to you Kenyans in the US?
I wasn't there, but at least from what I heard from my friends and family friends in the District of Columbia and in the DMV area, that is DC, Maryland, and Virginia, so many Kenyans thronged those places just to go and, Kenyans love partying, just to party together, to spend time together, and just to also meet the president in the other forums apart from in the White House. And it really mattered to Kenyans also because of our rising status in our geopolitics. Like, of course, like, I don't support it, but the impending sending of police to Haiti and things like that, we wanted to really hear, like, what is the agenda here? And of course, like, my friends who are of Haitian descent or Caribbean descent, they're like, why is the president really visiting here? And we also heard you're sending your police to our homeland to kind of go and restore order. So yeah, I think, like, and also, like, other matters, like all the investments, like the public-private partnerships that we had signed in the US, for example, the impending expressway from Nairobi to Mombasa, and many other projects, like, were also very much important to Kenyans, because many Kenyans live in those two cities, and whenever they come to Nairobi, they also on a vacation to Mombasa or whatever. So I think, it really mattered a lot to Kenyans in general.
Great.
Yeah.
So as a student, on my side, I know, in as much as we want to say, get the opportunities where they are and do them.
Yeah.
But back to the same question that I asked you earlier. Sometimes you visit around and you see how the people have developed their nations. should we then start pushing for some of these brains outside to be brought back to the country and the government to provide opportunities for these people to thrive so that we can grow a better nation? So that even in the future our children can also say, even if they go to the US, they go to Spain, they go to Brazil, come back, they can say, we have this back in Kenya because of certain people who sacrificed for this to be there.
Yeah, if you create the conducive conditions and environment for these Kenyans who are working or living outside there, then there'll be more incentive for them to come. And if they come, then I think they have more ideas that they've seen outside there, which they can implement here to make our country a better place. For example, we've seen other leaders at the time of independence who studied abroad, including Jomo Kenyatta himself.
Yes.
And Tom Mboya.
Most of the people who led the struggle
for independence.
For freedom, independence.
Yeah.
Whether it's I think Oginga Odinga studied outside. Tom Mboya studied outside. Gishurus, the Ngalas, the Kenyattas, all these people studied outside.
Studied abroad. Yeah. So I think that was a golden moment for Kenya, especially being able to negotiate with the British to the point where we got our independence because of the studies that they got outside, and they all came back. Jomo Kenyatta was living in the UK. He came back here to be president. Tom Mboya, who is living in the US and was actually a good friend to JF Kennedy. Actually, JFK's grandson is one of my friends, and we were just one time bonding about Tom Mboya, and he didn't know that Tom Mboya was from my tribe. So I think if conducive environments are created for these people to come back, then most of them are going to come back. Because I have so many friends who've also come back who've studied abroad, and they're doing very meaningful things here, working for corporations, working for NGOs that help so much on the ground. And it's only because of these small corporations that are giving them that conducive environment. So I think.
Are they struggling to fit in? Because that was going to be my next question. Having studied abroad, you've seen all these opportunities available, there are jobs there that you just do. Because you can just get them even when you're a student. When you come back home, you realize these are jobs you have to apply for. You have to go for interview. You have to, there are things that you need certain academic qualification for. How are these friends of yours fitting in?
Well, there's a very interesting article in The Guardian specifically about Kenyans who study abroad and come back to Kenya and struggle to fit in, and how that is like. And I really resonated with that article a lot. I'm going to send you the link shortly after this. So yes, so many Kenyans struggle to fit in culturally because, one, they've gotten used to, for example, I'll talk from the perspective of studying at Harvard. I've gotten used to having very efficient deliveries from my Amazon orders and things like that. Gotten very used to having Google Maps functioning very well in all parts where I'm going and not being.
This amazing. Google Maps cannot. Some roads are not marked. Some buildings are not marked. Also Kenyans over there have gotten used to partying in a particular way. When they want to party, they go for a particular type of wine, whatever. So when they come back here and they find that, one, they're not as Kenyan as they used to be. At the same time, if they're studying in the US, they're not that American. So they're kind of hanging in here in the middle. They're when I go back to the US, yes, they can tell that I'm from a different place, but at least I can fit in there. When I come back to Kenya, they also tell that, okay, this guy has not been here, so he's also struggling to fit in. And that's why you find many of them living in, let's say, Upper Hill and Westlands and never really going to their rural homes because they're it's really foreign for them. For example, the first time I went to the US, I spent 1.5 years before coming home. And when I came here, I felt like a tourist in my own land because everything was so different. I didn't even know that the expressway was here. I was like, oh, okay. So you're also developing.
That was a very good change. It makes travel a little bit easier in Nairobi, and even from the food, right nowadays I eat salads and I actually like them. Coming back here and not finding a similar thing.
When you left Kenya, what did you know? What did you know salad? Then salad ni ile mafuta ya kupika.
Nilikuwa ndani niyo.
Kwa hiyo kwenye watu wanakula salad.
Watu wanakula salad, unapata mboga yani imekuwa wamekatakata sijui nini wameka hapo, vitu vingine ambavyo
unakula vitu mbichi.
Mara kwa mara unashangaa, mbona nakula vitu mbichi, ila kwa muda unaenda ukazoea, lakini I think you kind of find yourself hanging somewhere in between, so that's why I think most of them prefer to stay like outside, or even if they come to Kenya, they're gonna stay in specific places. Yeah, because I can tell you most of them who've come back who are working here in Nairobi, they live in Westlands or Upper Hill or its environs. And even in Nairobi, their life like wants between work, their homes in Westlands, and some of the party places. And if there's a vacation, they're gonna go with some of their friends who are coming from abroad to like Watamu, Malindi, or even Zanzibar. So just because like they can't find this balance, and I really urge you to read the article that I'm going to send you like after this. Yeah.
I will do that. So Aboge, before we come back, before we end this session, TukoFreshy is a platform that we began to create space for us, not young people, but as Kenyans. Because I'm not for this idea of always classifying certain people as young people. Kenya is fairly young population as a whole, so we want to create a platform that we can be pushing for fresh ideas. TukoFreshy, we are fresh, how we do things, how we reason, how the kind of solution that we want to present. I want to give you an opportunity to talk to two categories of people. Number one, I want to talk to the youth of Kenya in a language that is as friendly as possible. In the midst of all these challenges that we are facing, and life is very hard, people are falling into depression, no jobs, no opportunities, no school fees, people cannot pay rent anymore. What is your message of hope to the youth? Then I'll also give you another opportunity. I wanted to talk to our government leaders, to be specific, the top government officials, because they have the power sometimes to drive the narrative the way we want it to go, right? Talking about national unity, talking about love for the country, and most important, the opportunities that they can present to Kenyans. But first of all, talk to the young Kenyans.
To my fellow young Kenyans, we face lots of challenges, and right from our academics to our finances and to literally everything. But my message to you is that do not give up on the beauty of your dreams. For example, I myself, I never knew that one day I'll be at an institution of Harvard's caliber, lakini leo hii naona niko hapo na nimeweza kufanya vitu vingi sana. Kwa hivyo yangu ni kuwahimiza kuwa na amani na imani katika kila kitu, na kutia bidii katika kila kitu, na pia kusaidiana ni muhimu sana, kwa sababu hata nami baada ya kuingia katika chuo kikuu cha Harvard niliweza kusaidia wengine pia kufanya application zao kuingia huko na wakafanikiwa, na hao pia wakasaidia wengine. Na hata wakati huu ambapo karibu ninahitimu masomo yangu katika chuo kikuu cha Harvard, najua kuna wengine ambao wanajua namna ya kusaidia wengine na kuwafanya pia waende wakasomee mahali kama hapo na waweze kusaidia Wakenya wenzao. Pia go to as many websites as you can to get the opportunities, because I want to tell you that there's so many opportunities out here. Join the relevant WhatsApp channels, and you'll find so many opportunities coming away. Plus, if you get one opportunity, most of the times it opens doors to other opportunities. Like one phenomenon that I normally see when people get jobs is that once they get their first jobs, they start receiving other offers from other places. So it only takes like you to start somewhere, and at the same time, be very current on world matters right now. Have knowledge on literally every field that you can. Whether it's politics, do not say that politics does not affect me as a Kenyan, because clearly everything that is happening right now is being affected by politics, and is likely as a direct result of politics. So kama kuna wakati wa kupiga kura, msiseme kura zetu zitahesabika, sisi ni wale my youth, dini, endeni mkapiga kura. Hata pale ughaibuni ambapo wengine wetu tupo, tunapiga kura kama Wakenya, kwa sababu tunaona ni muhimu sana kuweza kuchagua uongozi ambao utatusaidia kama nchi. Kwa hivyo nawahimiza kuwa muweze kutia nyoyo zenu katika mambo ambayo ni muhimu kwa nchi, hata siasa, kwa sababu tukiacha wazee ndio waongozi katika kila kitu, hatuna mustakabali kama vijana. Ila ni muhimu sana kuwa na mustakabali na kuwa na nyenzo za kusaidiana, na bila kuwa na kudra au uwezo huu hatutaweza kusonga mbele. Kwa hivyo yangu ni kuhimiza mtie bidii, msaidiane, na muweze kupata fursa katika tovuti tofauti kila mahali, na hata usiogope kuanza padogo, kwa sababu mara nyingi unajua unaangalia kule kwenye social media, unaona kuwa labda huyu jamaa ameanza huku na wewe umepewa kazi ambayo labda mshahara wake si kama ulivyotarajia, lakini ni muhimu sana uweze ukachukua kile ambacho unaweza kuanza nacho, na baada ya hayo utapata tu ukiendelea kupata hadhi kubwa katika kile kitu ambacho unafanya, na uweze kuamini na kuwe mtu mwadilifu, be of so much integrity, and lastly kuwa mnyenyekevu, be humble. Whatever you do, like usiwe mtu wa kuenda kuweka kila kitu kwenye tovuti, umefanya hiki na kile. La, jieke tu. Kama uko unasaidia wazazi, zidi kuwasaidia. Kama uko unasaidia marafiki, zidi kuwasaidia. Na pia usikate, like do not cut off marafiki zako kwa sababu uweza kupanda hadhi ukaenda katika daraja nyingine. Si vyema. Do not be full of pride. Just have lots of humility, and you're going to see yourself like going places. And that's my message to you as my fellow youth in the Republic of Kenya. Mustakabali wa nchi hii ni ule wa vijana, kwa sababu baadaye, yani tutapata viongozi wa sasa hawapo, ila vijana ndio watakuwa. Vijana kama sisi tuseme miaka 50 baada ya sasa, sisi ndisi tutakuwepo. Ila yangu ni kuwahimizeni kama serikali kutengeneza fursa nyingi kwa vijana kuweza kuboresha uongozi wao na hata hali zao, kwa mambo ya kifedha na hata mambo ya elimu na kila kitu ambacho wanaweza kufanya, kwa sababu bila kutengeneza mazingira mema kuhusu mambo ya vijana na maslahi ya vijana, hatutaweza kuwa na mustakabali kama nchi. Kwa hivyo kama ni kutengeneza nafasi za ajira kwa vijana, tafadhali mtengeneze, kwa sababu yani hawataweza kuwa na tajriba yoyote bila kufanya kazi hizi. Pia ni muhimu sana kufanya vijana waishi maisha ya usalama, kwa sababu wapata kuwa usalama katika maeneo fulani yani umedhoofika sana. Kama ukiangalia kazini mwa Kenya, hakuna usalama sana, ila vijana wale ambao wako kule pia wana azma ya kuwa na maisha mema baadaye, na bila kujenga maisha yao katika yani mustawa huu, yani itakuwa karibu mstahili kuwezesha maisha yao kuwa bora. Kwa hivyo ni muhimu sana kupea vijana wote usalama na nafasi za ajira na hata elimu. Tunaona kuwa taalima inabadilishwa hapa na pale, na hata ukiangalia vyuo vikuu wengine hawapati kuhitimu masomo yao kwa wakati, au wakihitimu wametumia hela nyingi sana. Kwa hivyo tukiweza kulainisha mambo haya, kwa sababu elimu, afya na usalama ni muhimu sana kwa kila mtu na hata vijana, tutaweza kuona mabadiliko katika mustakabali yetu. So yeah, for the government of the Republic of Kenya, it's very important to invest in the future of our youth. For example, personally as a student at Harvard University, I've seen firsthand how the United States and other countries of similar natures like invest in the futures of their youth by sending them to exchange programs in places you can't even imagine. Just investing directly into their education, giving them incentives to work hard, and giving them incentives to come back to their home countries and build it, and giving them also opportunities to serve as young leaders in the executive branch or the legislative branch, and even the judicial branches. But I mean, whenever we see government officials' photos here in Kenya, they're usually people of above a certain age. Sometimes it's just like, is this really like, representative of the demographics of the country? So I think our government needs to be more representative of the demographics that we have, because without having the youth within your cracks and crevices in those buildings, it's very, very impossible to have a future that is better defined for them. And a country that does not have hopeful youth, successful youth, has a dead future. So it's important that we see 50 years from now what we're going to have as a country, and that can only be seen by having a keen reflection on how the youth are doing currently. So for example, when we sign those bilateral deals for trade, let the young Kenyans be the ones who are prioritized in these deals. When we are having new ambassadors, new high commissioners, new like diplomatic attaches to the various consulates and embassies and high commissions that we have out there, let the youth be prioritized, because this is the face of Kenya. I'm looking forward to the day where we're going to have like a 24-year-old ambassador of Kenya to whichever country, and that will be the turning point. So it's very important that we invest in the future of our youth. I'm one of them, and please invest in our future, dear government of the Republic of Kenya, all the leaders who are there. So to my fellow Kenyans studying abroad, continue the good work that you're doing. Continue working hard and raising the Kenyan flag high. Whenever we have our Independence Days, raise the flag off your window to, show the world that we are a proud nation. At the same time, also show this patriotism and pride by supporting your friends who are still in the Republic of Kenya, by giving them any relevant opportunities that you've seen out there which they can apply to, by sending remittances to your family, because those for the foreign exchange is really important for the economy of any country. At the same time, also it's very important to just portray the country in positive light in the areas that we do well, while at the same time also being very honest and critical of the government, even if you're abroad, like demanding better services, and being able to fit into the leadership positions, because also like there's a problem of Kenyans who are abroad not applying for positions back home or even seeking elective positions. So if you feel that is your calling, please go for it as a student who is studying abroad, or as a Kenyan who is living abroad in general. At the same time, if you're supposed to pay taxes, pay your fair share, and just ensure that you have lots of passion and love for your country. If you have kids over there, educate them about Kenya. Make sure, very importantly, that you preserve our indigenous languages. I'm always proud to talk to my mother in my indigenous language. My father's tribal language is Luo. My mom's tribal language is Abasuba. I'm fluent in Luo. So I talk to my mom in Luo, even though she's not Luo, but she speaks it well. I also try to preserve my classical Swahili, which I use to write poetry, and also just to communicate with other Swahili scholars. So it's important to preserve our languages even if you're living abroad, because there's nothing that gives us a better sense of pride and identity than our language and our last names. So that's my message to you, Kenyan studying abroad.
Thank you so much, Aboge. This has been one of the best conversations that I've ever had with someone one-on-one.
Thank you.
And we're going to do this again and again. This studio is called the Open Citizens Dialogue Studio.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been set here specifically to create this kind of opportunities, to create this kind of spaces where we can just have dialogues and have some good conversations with each other. So thank you so much to Damaris, my friend, who is also just at the background trying to help us put this together. Also to Francis Omolo, who is also always in charge of what people see on the screen.
Yeah.
And to you, Aboge.
Thank you.
Wishing you well even as you go around the country and go back to school, but manze, with the same spirit umesema, usisahau nyumbani.
Yeah,
huku ndio penye tunatoka. Hata kama umeamua kubaki huko, wewe find a way of building this country, because no one will come to build it for us. Tunataka siku moja pia sisi watu wanaweza kuja huko na waseme wow, Kenya iko sawa, and we want you to be part of that journey. We want you to be part of that history, that in the year 2050, 2060, when people will be visiting this country, wanasema we, shule za Kenya ziko sawa, barabara za Kenya ziko sawa, hosi za Kenya ziko sawa. We want it to be known that you are part of it. Sindio? Aya, sawa. Aya, wazi kabisa. Thank you. And we'll see you some other time. Have a great time ahead of you, and keep working hard. Asante.